01, and I believe we have all of the commissioners online now, but let's just confirm that everyone's here before we get started. I don't see anyone missing. All right, well, welcome. This is our February annual meeting. It is my first time chairing, and my name is Paige Dcha, and I represent a small section of AMC 3D. I'm 3D03, which is part of Spring Valley, and I've lived in the neighborhood with my 2 kids and my husband since 2016. And I've been a proud resident of DC since 1998, and happy to be here and part of the commission. And so I think we'll start, since we have a quorum, why don't we start with if there's any changes to our agenda, which I know there are. So shall we get started with that?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Good evening. Okay, I'm not aware of all of the changes, so I'll only move mine, and then I think you could keep the motion open for others. I move to amend the agenda to add letters concerning the erection of a security perimeter around the Capitol.
Lisa, there's your down reports. At the Capitol, a bunch.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Sriki, any other changes that you'd like to add?
Madam Chair.
No, not from me.
Commissioner Elkins would like to add one.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add that we appoint new members to the Transportation Committee. Do that during commission business.
Okay, any other additions or subtractions? Okay, with that, any discussion or move to motion?
Madam Chair, you asked about deletions. Is Commissioner Simkowitz here? I think we probably should indicate to the audience that we will not be discussing one of the things that was announced in the agenda. Is he here?
Yeah, okay, so he should be, although I don't see Commissioner
Well,
I'm here, Paige.
okay.
Oh,
Chair,
great, terrific.
Madam Chair. We are not going to be addressing the merits of the zoning exception application for 4457 Macarthur. However, Commissioner Bergman is keeping the agenda regarding a letter to the OAG, Office of the Attorney General, and the OHR, Office of Human Rights, regarding that same property.
And Madam
Which is
Chair,
on the agenda.
and Madam Chair, we
Yeah.
will not be taking up the quarterly financial report. We took that up last month, so that's completed. So we don't need to bring it up again this time. So that can be deleted.
Okay. Any other additions or subtractions to the agenda? Okay, with that, I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda for the night.
I
Is there a
second.
second?
I second JP
Okay.
Simkowitz.
All in favor? All right. The agenda for tonight is adopted. We have a lot on our agenda, so we'll get started. And one item for those who are on the phone, we are going to stick to the time limits that we've got because we've got a lot going on tonight, and so need to be very efficient in running this meeting tonight. And like I said, for those who entered this meeting late, my name is Paige Gila. I'm one of the commissioners. This is my second term as a commissioner. I've lived in Washington, D.C. since 1998, and happy to be here, and also thankful to former chairman and now Commissioner Elkins for his help in getting us through this first meeting. So lots on the agenda. Why don't we get started with our safety reports? Lieutenant Haskins, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'll thank you, Chairwoman Ella. I am not going. I will try to be as quick as I can. I know there is a very big agenda. So the crime report, in terms of for January, as opposed this year as opposed to last year, is actually very good. There were 29 total crimes last year for the past month, while this year it is 11. So that number is very good. But I do want to say one troubling thing that did not decrease was motor vehicle theft. There were 2 in January last year, and there are 2 January this year. And the city's had an uptick in motor vehicle thefts. And one of the things that I have noticed in our motor vehicle thefts, there are often because the vehicle's left running unattended, and that or the keys are in the car. So I do want to stress, even though you might live on a quiet side street in DC, the vehicles running unattended, the folks doing the stealing actually drive around in a car looking for that. So although you might live on a quiet street, please be aware that I do want to put very clear that motor vehicle thefts are on the increase. Not in our ANC for this year, but unlike most every other crime, it did not decrease this year. In terms of theft from autos, we had a decrease, 13 last year, 5 this year. Pretty much all our crime this past month has been in some way automobile related. And we had 1 violent felony, and it was a security guard working for a private property that confronted somebody who was stealing from his vehicle, and the person who was confronted had a gun on him and actually fired the gun. Nobody was injured, thankfully, and we recovered the vehicle shortly thereafter, and we are hopeful that we will find the culprit. In terms of burglaries, we are down. We did have 2 commercial burglaries recently on Macarthur Boulevard. I believe those have some good leads, and but we are down in burglaries, 4 in the month of January last year, 2 this year. Any questions?
None here. Any from the audience? No? All right, well, why don't we move on? And I think Officer McElwee, there might be some noise in your background. I'm not quite sure.
Can you hear me
Or
now?
somebody does.
I just unmuted.
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, I'll give you my quick traffic report. Good evening, everyone, and I'm Officer Anthony McElwee, your traffic officer. Sorry I missed you last month. I was on vacation. So I'm going to give you a quick traffic report dated back to December 3rd through yesterday. I specialized special attention on Macarthur Boulevard, Reservoir Road, Foxhall Road, Lawborough Road. I wrote a total of 289 tickets during those 2 months. Out of those 289, 108 were for speeding. The majority of those speeding ones were on Macarthur Boulevard, Foxhall Road, and Reservoir Road. Also issued 86 expired insurance, 14 red lights, 10 cell phones, 8 stop signs, and 3 cell phones. Just if you're curious, the breakdown of the violators that are coming through your neighborhoods, out of all those stops, 106 of them were Maryland drivers, 105 of them were District of Columbia drivers, 58 of them were Virginia drivers. Also, the speed machine was active within the PSA. It was positioned in the 5400 block of Macarthur Boulevard, the 4700 block of Macarthur Boulevard, the 4900 block of Lawborough Road, and the 4700 block of Reservoir Road. That speed machine tells you how fast you're going when you go by it. It's an outstanding traffic calming tool, and it really does work to slow the vehicles down. And the last thing is we had 21 minor traffic accidents that reported for those 2 months. Most of them were preventable. There were no serious injuries. And with that said, I'll be happy to take any complaints, concerns concerning traffic. See anybody out there, Commissioner Eli?
No, sir.
Everybody be safe, and thank you for inviting us.
All right. Thank you so much. Stay
Thank you.
safe as well. Thanks. All right. From here, I believe we're ready to move on to community issues and concerns. And so we'll start with our local institutions. And tonight I thought we might start off with GW, which is in Commissioner Rao's neighborhood. And so I'll turn it over to GW.
Good evening, folks. My name is Kevin Days. I am the Director for Community Relations. Happy to be here again. Want to give a quick update and make a quick announcement. Primarily, what I'd like to announce is that the George Washington University is now commencing its community engagement portion of the campus planning process. I want to give a quick background. Our campus plan was originally that Mount Vernon campus was originally supposed to expire in December 31, 2020. DC automatically extended for 6 months, moving the campus plan's expiration date to June 30th, 2021. GW is planning to seek an additional 6-month administrative extension, further extending the expiration date to December 31st, 2021. As part of our engagement process, we will create 4 community partnership advisory working groups. These 4 working groups will be cover activities that involve facilities planning, student life and transportation, and parking and community engagement. We will staff these advisory working groups with representatives from both the university and the community members, and we expect these working groups will meet once a month. We will have a formal kickoff of our community engagement process at our next quarterly meeting, which is scheduled for February 25th at 7 p.m. To register for that meeting, you just simply need to send an email to Gabrielle Sosa, who's our Associate Director for Government Relations, and I will drop her email address in the text. If you're interested in participating in one of these advisory working groups, you're free to contact me directly, and I will also put up my email address into the chat. We provide ongoing updates via our electronic newsletter, and you can register for that, and I'll drop that link in the website. But we look forward to working with the community as we sort of move forward with our community campus planning process. And that is my update.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Any questions or concerns from the audience? I'm going to take that as a no, and we'll continue on to American University. Maria Berry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Berry. I'm the Director of Community Relations at American University. It's nice to see everyone tonight. Hope you enjoyed some of the snow while it lasted. I'll just keep this real brief. I wanted to announce a new program that we put in our community newsletter, which was came out today, and it's called the Health and Safety Ambassador Program. So we have about 30 student ambassadors that are going to be on our campus. They've already started their tenure, and they are going to be helping to keep all of us safe on our campus. And so they're looking at folks to make sure that people are wearing masks. They're reminding people of social distancing. And this is for everyone who comes onto our campus. So if you do see them, they have badges, and we'd love for you to say hello to them and we just wanted to let you know that you might see them. We also are in the newsletter today, we talked about our fields, our athletes, our student athletes will be participating in training for their various sports this spring. And as such, our fields and courts and of course our buildings still do remain closed to the community. So we just want you to hopefully be patient and mindful of what's happening on our campus, in ensuring that we have a great student experience for our students during this time. Lastly, and I'll put information in the chat on where you can reach us at Community Relations, but we do have our campus planning process coming up as we've been working on it for the last 2 years, and we are requesting any letters of support to be sent through our portal at American University. I'll drop it in the chat, and that deadline to submit a letter of support is February 22nd. So happy to answer any other questions. Again, I'll put my information in the chat for you, and we'd love to stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Chairperson Ela, a question for me, please. Hi, Maria. Great to see the students back on campus. It's so nice to see signs of life on campus. A question for you on the university's position on reopening some of those outdoor facilities to neighbors and when you expect that to happen.
Yeah, so we did try to detail that a little bit about what's going on with our athletics, because due to the students, the student athlete needs, we need to keep it just to that group because of the public health emergency. So we certainly will be keeping the community informed, and we can't wait to be open just like as we always used to be. But at this point right now, for the foreseeable future, just certainly through the public health emergency, which I think now is through March, I do know that the city, their fields and courts are on a different schedule. So like the tennis courts at Turtle Park, for instance, which because that's a DC property, are open for public use. But unfortunately, we have to balance the needs of our student athletes during COVID.
Certainly respect that, but I am hearing you say you do look forward to welcoming neighbors back when it's safe.
Yes, absolutely. We can't, we look forward to that. It's just, we've had to change our tack during this time to meet, to ensure that we're able to give the student athletes during this time. We are back, but we're also in a very, we have, most is still happening. It's all online still. It's all remote for our student experience.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Thanks so much. Stay safe. Okay. From here, I believe
Chairperson
we're ready
Ela,
to...
we have a
yes.
we have Georgetown University as well.
Oh, wow. All right. Another university. All right.
I've been asked to deliver Georgetown's. They were not able to come tonight, and I will read their statement. Georgetown University has taken the following actions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 amongst its students and community at large. Number one, students living on campus and in the surrounding neighborhoods are required to take a COVID test once a week and encouraged to take a second COVID test that week. Both tests would be paid for by the university as a condition of attending school. Georgetown is the only university in the District of Columbia to require students living in the surrounding neighborhoods to be tested as a condition of attending school. That is students not living on campus. Number two, Georgetown urges students living on and off campus in the neighborhoods around campus to refrain from indoor social gatherings with members of outside their household. Number 3, shifting nearly all of the limited number of hybrid mode classes to virtual mode. Number 4, further restricting on-campus research activities. Number 5, transitioning in-person religious services to virtual mode. And finally, deferring the reopening of Yates Fieldhouse and Keogh Field, which were initially to be limited to undergraduate students living on campus, and there is no timetable for that reopening. Finally, the report from MedStar Georgetown University Hospital Center is that the construction project is ongoing as scheduled with no expected negative impacts on the surrounding community.
Thanks so much, JP. Why don't we keep on moving on? And I think our next section, and sorry, my computer just went black. I believe our next section is on community updates, and then from there, commissioner updates. Commissioner Elkins, is that correct?
No, we need to hear, I believe, both from the mayor's office and from
Oh yeah, that's right.
Councilmember Che's office. So, but then
Che's office. Okay, super. Why don't we move on to the mayor's office then, and then we'll move on to Councilmember Che's office. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amir Gur-Raventab. I'm from the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. One half of the Ward 3 Mokers. I replaced Jessica Green as of 2 months ago, for those who haven't met me yet. I know we're short on time today, so I'm going to just quickly speak about some updates regarding DCPS reopening and the vaccine distribution that we haven't heard since our last meeting last month. So starting with DCPS, we reopened yesterday. We were originally supposed to reopen on Monday, but due to the snowstorm that got delayed. We're proud to announce that every single in-person DCPS teacher has been offered a slot on their first appointment for the vaccine. And as of yesterday, about 3,100 teachers have already been vaccinated with their first dose. And DCPS is committed to reinstalling, modifying, and improving their HVAC systems to make sure that the spread of the virus does not occur. And they will be conducting periodic testing of student and staff about every 10 days or so to make sure there aren't any outbreaks. And in the event of an outbreak, that student is sent home to be quarantined for 14 days and should not come back to school based on a certain number of criteria, either 10 days after symptoms subside or 10 days after an asymptomatic positive test. And moving on to the vaccine distribution. Just to reiterate, the classes of people that are eligible for the vaccine as of now are starting with healthcare workers and DC residents 65 years and older. Those are the two classes that are asked to sign up through vaccinate.dc.gov. The rest of these classes include members of fire and emergency medical services, residents of long-term and intermediate care facilities, homeless individuals, members of MPD, DCPS teachers and staff, Department of Corrections employees and residents, continuity of government operations personnel. That includes bus drivers for schools, and the licensed childcare providers and teachers and staff of independent schools in DC. So that includes private schools. And we've also made a few changes to the distribution. As you might know, every week now, every Thursday and Friday morning, we open up more vaccines. Thursday mornings are the priority mornings, and that's been changed to only wards 5, 7, and 8. And Friday mornings, all citywide, includes our ward. They've also made it so that the Thursday morning and Friday morning rollouts are equal now. It used to be that Thursday mornings got a higher dose, about twice as many more vaccine appointments than the Friday morning ones, but now it's been made to be equal between the two rollout periods. Additionally, we've also made some changes to the sign-up system to streamline the process a bit more. So we've increased site resources. We've moved the website to a better infrastructure to handle all the traffic. The website now automatically hides vaccination sites where all appointments have been booked. Questions regarding insurance information have been removed from the initial sign up to speed in the process. Increased size of text and speech bubbles. Additional options such as confirmation pages to print out. And DC Health has more than quadrupled the number of call takers to answer the calls on the mornings of rollouts. Additionally, as always, the phone number for the hotline, and I can put in the chat too. The phone number for the hotline is 855-363-0333. Additionally, we've also opened up on-site vaccinations for seniors living in DCHA senior facilities, and we have one within our ward. That one is Regency Apartments or Regency House at 5201 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. And we have a point of contact, Mia Locke. I will put her contact in the chat as well. We've also been told by Dr. LaQuandra Nesbitt of DC Health that for those people who have received their first dose, their second dose has been prioritized to them as a second dose. So that means that if someone has received their first dose, that second dose is only going to be someone's second dose. We don't give away a second dose to someone as their first dose. I had a few people asking questions about that, saying that they were saying that it might have been inequitable, but that's how we're doing it. And finally, if you cannot seem to get an appointment through vaccinate.dc.gov, you can also try to sign up from a list of hospitals within DC. If you or a senior have been a patient there who's had an appointment within the last 2 or 3 years. And these hospitals are Howard University Hospital, MedStar Georgetown University Hospital, MedStar Washington Hospital Center, GW Hospital, Sibley Memorial Hospital, which books their appointments through, I believe, Johns Hopkins, United Medical Center, and Kaiser Permanente. Any questions?
Did you guys delay that rollout for the people with a BMI of over 25?
Yeah, so February 1st, we were originally meant to change that or to have the rollout to people with all sorts of medical conditions, including people with BMI that indicates obesity, additionally, in addition to any other medical condition, and grocery store workers, I believe. But due to our low supply of vaccine, we've had to move that back. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it might be about a week or so, given that our last delay, which involved childcare and private school teachers, was supposed to be last week, and they just got added this week. So it might be about a week behind. But the Biden administration has been increasing the vaccine allotment by 15% for the past few weeks. So we hope that that allotment increases.
Okay, so you don't see any issues with once you guys launch that? I mean, it's great, but basically that encompasses probably most of DC once you include the BMI of 25, right?
Maybe about a third of DC, maybe less, but it's based on, I'm not a doctor, but it is based on the health risks faced by those people with that BMI. They're much higher risk of dying from COVID.
So it's not just that. It's not just based on the number itself. It's a two-part process for that.
Mm-hmm. And it includes other health risks as well. So it is a large cohort. Anyone with any medical condition really that relates to COVID or otherwise, including diabetes, immunocompromised, or asthma.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on.
Thanks. We have a question from Chairman Elkins.
Emir, thank you for your report. I think that was very, very thorough and helpful. I did hear one more thing tonight that I think people might be interested in from Department of Health, and that is that the department has heard all the frustration about having to go onto this registration site, and every time you can't get an appointment, you got to put all the information in it again, et cetera. And it's pretty difficult. And so they are moving toward a system in which you register in one situation and then you schedule in a second. And I don't know the details of how that's going to be worked, but the intent, I think, is to try to reduce the frustration of people who are getting on the site. So I mainly wanted to say people have been heard downtown and they're working on a solution.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. We just had a town hall a few hours ago in which questions like that were asked, and previous meetings I've been to, people have asked this question, like, why are we continuously putting our information when this could be saved? So yes, those concerns are being heard, and we are evolving as this changes.
Thanks so much. We have one more question from the audience from William Clarkson.
Hey, Amir. This is William Clarkson of the Spring Valley Neighborhood Association. Thank you for joining us, so I don't have to continue pestering Nicholas Mendelson from Mary Chay's office on these questions. He's very helpful. Thank you, Nick. But Amir, I had 3 questions regarding the school reopenings and the vaccination distribution plans for teachers. And I appreciate you providing the data on the teachers, the number of teachers that were offered vaccines and have been vaccinated. I think in general, having data is something every stakeholder is in favor of, having more data, more transparency. But just to clarify on the teacher vaccinations, is it just teachers and staff that are in person that are working in the school buildings that are being prioritized, or are all DCPS teachers and staff being prioritized?
Just in person.
Got it. The second question is regarding the school reopening data. As you and others on the call know, that with the arbiter's recent ruling between DCPS and the WTU, I understand one of the parts of the ruling was that DCPS had to hand over school-specific in-person learning demand data that was requested by the WTU. And I was wondering, assuming that DCPS is going to provide that this week, will that be published, disclosed publicly?
I'm not sure as to the answer to that, but I can take down your information and follow up with that later this week, assuming any details do come out.
That'd be fantastic. And the last thing, again, is just, continue. You all are doing a great job in dealing with, I can't imagine all the stuff you're dealing with right now, but I would urge the mayor and the council just to more transparency, the more information you can provide folks as far as updates, but also the rationale for the decision making. I know it's not an exact science, but whether it's how you determine which zip codes are prioritized. I think people will understand that if they just know, if they have an explanation. And so I think moving forward, the community town halls, the situational updates are great, but just the more data, the more transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I should have mentioned the data. Actually, the reason why they changed this to 5, 7, and 8, they released visual data as well to highlight the percentage of each ward. And 5, 7, and 8 are the wards that have the lowest vaccination rates as of now. So they managed to improve it in 1 and 4, which is why they've removed those from the priority list.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah, those maps are great.
And I want to say one more thing before I move on to the last question, that we're also trying to reach out to seniors who don't have a phone and don't have a means of, knowing about what we're doing. Workers, we've been trying to do this initiative where we go knock on doors to seniors' houses who don't have a phone, or we don't know if they have a phone. We don't know if they know about our initiatives, trying to get in contact with them and hopefully set up a time where we as Mokers or someone they know, someone in their community, can try to sign up for the vaccine appointment for them. So that's something else we're doing. And if you know anyone in your neighborhood or area who does not have communication with the outside world, who might not be aware of the details, that we hope you share your information with us. And we have one more question from Commissioner Rao.
Thank you so much, excuse me, Amir. And honestly, I just wanted to, now that everyone else has asked the questions and made the points that I made, I wanted to thank you. It's been very nice having you on. And the reason I want to emphasize that is because communication has been such a, always is such a huge problem when it comes to public health. And we're always caught flat-footed when these kinds of things occur. And DC was no different. But the response has been good to watch. I think obviously, the more information, the better. Your data tonight was very nice to hear. I would just simply emphasize getting more data out to the public through the channels you just mentioned, through, your local news channel, through all those things you already know about would be really, really helpful as to why we are doing, or as to why you are doing what you're doing. And then the second thing I would say is, let's continue to consider options that reduce the risk of exposure to the virus in the absence of a more widespread vaccination campaign, which realistically is going to take months. We've talked about outdoor learning. I won't go down that path, but too long. But there are other things we could do to mitigate the risk that I think we should be considering at this time. So thank you, Amir, so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Rao. Yes, we've actually heard a few previous meetings that have suggested outdoor learning, and it's something we can propose to DCPS and see what they think. Ultimately, DC reopening has been left to the LSATs, which we as MOCers don't really have any internal communication or understanding of what they decide, but that kind of decision is left to LSAT. So if our LSATs are made aware of these proposals, we can move along with them. I thank everyone else for your time and listening to me tonight. I'm going to share my contact information, my MOCers Twitter page, as well as the contact information for Mia Locke at Regency House, which is the DCHA senior house facility, which will be performing on-site vaccination appointments in the coming weeks. So thank you, everyone.
Good. Nice.
Thank you very much. All right, so we can move on to Nicholas in Mary Chay's office.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas Carr-Mendelson. I'm Councilmember Chay's constituent service staffer. I think I've met most folks here, but again, I'll make sure to include my contact information in the chat box in case anybody wants to flag any constituent service related questions, concerns, issues, anything like that. I'd be happy to follow up with you offline, or I guess everything's online now. I also want to make sure that everyone knows that on Tuesday, February 9th at 12 p.m., the Committee on Transportation and the Environment will be holding a budget oversight hearing for the Department of Motor Vehicles and the Deputy Mayor for Operations and Infrastructure. I believe that's the only one that's currently uploaded to the council website currently, that's generally handled by our budget office. But I believe, and this may be subject to change, but I believe DDOT will be held on February 26th, 12 p.m. And again, that will also be uploaded to the council's website and calendar, just as the budget office is able to do that. The other big thing I wanted to flag for everyone is that Councilmember Chay announced that she'll be holding a public roundtable on transportation in the district after the pandemic. That'll be held at March 23rd. 12 p.m. And again, the purpose of that roundtable will be to hear from the community and DDOT and get a sense about what transportation initiatives are out there that began during the pandemic that folks want to see continue. And I know that some of the topics of discussion are going to include streeteries, bus-only lanes, slow streets, and whether to ask MPS to permanently close Beach Drive to cars. All of that information has been posted to the council's website, and that date can be found there. You can save it to your calendar. But I just want to make sure to kind of give folks a heads up about those events, as well as we are just heading generally into performance oversight season. So if there are any other agencies that you're interested in either submitting comment on or watching their oversight hearings, be sure to check out the council's calendar for that. That is about it for me in terms of updates. And again, I'll make sure to flag my information in the group chat for anyone that wants to get in touch with me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Mary Chay or Nicholas? Mary Chay's office and Nicholas? Nope. Okay. We are at 7:40 in our discussion, and we should be at 7:25 based on our schedule. So we are going to move this along and go on to commissioner updates and community news. And I'll start with if any commissioners have any updates that they'd like to provide. All right, with that, we'll move on to community.
Commissioner.
And
This is JP. I have some updates for everyone. The first update is that the Colony Hill Historic Preservation proceeding before the Historic Preservation Board ended in a vote denying the request. However, there was apparently no reason given for that denial among the board members who voted against it. Therefore, there's going to be another meeting tomorrow, and that meeting Riley can put in the chat as far as to how to get on. The meeting will begin at 9, but this matter won't be heard until 10. And that is to either vote again or explain the decision not to accept the application. I have 2 other reports. The Office of Zoning has taken our request for what's called a clean hand certificate. And I'll read that memorandum. It says, the Office of Zoning is requesting that the Zoning Commission grant a text amendment that would require applicants doing business with the Zoning Commission and Board of Zoning Adjustment to provide documentation that they are in compliance with the Clean Hands mandate, and if a business entity, also provide documentation that shows that they are a business in good standing in the District of Columbia. Like other agencies in the district, we should not allow applicants who are not in compliance with the laws to do business with the Commission or BZA. And that's a direct result of ANC 3D's actions in the past few months. And the final thing I have to add is that as another result of our actions at ANC 3D, DCRA has issued 2 violations for failing to obtain basic business license and failing to complete corporate registration documents. And each citation carries a fine of $2,093 for a total of $4,186. And that is a direct result of what ANC 3D has done. Commissioner Elkins and I have been on a DCRA commission regarding licensure, and we're working very hard to make sure all businesses are licensed. So that's my report.
thanks so much, JP. Commissioner Elkins?
Just a quick report that at our last meeting, the commission approved 2 letters to the Department of Transportation. One was new sidewalks and the other one was new bicycle paths. And Jeff Merudian, who was at the time the director of DDOT, immediately wrote back and said, well, we would be happy to meet with you, because that's how we asked that they meet with us and go over these priorities. And I wrote back to him and said, okay, let's get into the details. And that was the day that President Biden tapped him to join the White House staff. So there's been a little bit delay, but they have an acting director of DDOT, and they are working on setting up those meetings. So I'm hopeful that the work that the Transportation Committee and the community together with us of identifying needs will result in a meeting with 2 meetings with DDOT, and we'll move this matter forward.
Thank you. Other commissioner updates, or shall we move on to neighborhood updates? All right, we can move on to neighborhood updates. We have one that I'd like to start with, which is a neighborhood champion of outdoor learning who really helped me understand what we were looking to do way back in the May timeframe when I started testifying with the school board on outdoor learning. And so I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Elkins, as well as Laura Daringer, who has done an amazing job getting our city up to speed on what the possibilities are for outdoor learning for our DC public school students. So turning it over to her.
Thank you very much. And Chuck is gonna show some pictures of a fantastic outdoor classroom demonstration that we had this morning. I just want to give a brief explanation of where I am on this. I am a mother of 4 here in Wesley Heights, but I do not enroll my children in the DC public school system. So I do not approach this, let's say, as an interested party. I approach this because my background is as a public health nurse. Before having children, I worked overseas managing disease outbreaks with Doctors Without Borders. And so for my standpoint, Chuck, if you want to go to the next slide, that's fine. The reason that we would want to include robustly the tool, I call it a tool, that's a good one to sit on, of using outdoor classrooms as an option for our students, teachers, families, is that the same way that masks and social distancing and language of air ventilation, which is optimal outside, is because outdoor classrooms is another appropriate public health endorsed risk mitigation tool to approach how to control and manage disease spread. And additionally, this likely, the conservative public health people among us are not saying that things are going to be returning to normal in September. If that happens, that's fantastic, but that's not generally how people are reading the situation, given the new variant. So it's still appropriate now to think about creating this investment. Last summer, there was a coalition formed called the DC Coalition on Equitable Outdoor Education. And essentially, this is everybody across the city in every ward, from teachers to parents to different, some business owners that are saying they do want this funded. So bottom line, the ask is that we want the city and the mayor to make an investment of a minimum of $4 million so that there is a fund robustly to support outdoor learning. The chancellor, it's not that it's not allowed, it's on the books. The Office of Superintendent does have a protocol supporting outdoor classrooms. So it's certainly something that schools are allowed to do. And many principals know about it. There are about 36 principals across the city, even a high school now in our ward, where the principal has expressed interest in outdoor classrooms. The concern is that the principals don't perceive funding. So while they are allowed to do it, and while the chancellor and the deputy mayor of education have given the language publicly saying that they support outdoor learning, they haven't put money towards it, which makes it extremely hard, especially for the schools in the most affected parts of the city. So we have focused since November on creating demonstration outdoor classrooms. We've done this focused on Ward 8 because that is the location of the city where children will benefit the most from this type of intervention. So I just really thought it was fun and joyful to share this with you today. Urban Adventure Squad is a nonprofit outdoor organization that does offer outdoor learning experiences to children, and they agreed to come and volunteer a class for free because there is no budget for this in Oxen Run Park. This is the farthest southeast corner of the city, and I will admit I grew up here. I've lived here my entire life, except for when I was in Africa, essentially. And I had never been to Ward 8 or the border of DC. This is the park that basically across the river is then Maryland. So there's a large park. There are about 4 or 5 schools that in theory should be able to access and use this amphitheater, which can serve, as you've seen from the pictures, as an outdoor classroom. But we are demonstrating that in DC's possibly most extreme weather, I mean, Vermont would never call this snow, but in DC we call this snow. The children in Ward 8 come out if you have the appropriate clothing and teachers trained to deliver curriculum. So far, we have provided a math class on fractions, a music class. We've had a biology class. Today was a science and rain garden, which is a little bit of geology. So we've demonstrated also different curriculum involved. So that's just the update. And if anybody's interested, I would encourage you to join. There's finally a website for the Outdoor Coalition, and I'm available anytime for questions. And I was very happy to hear that, like I said, our high school here in this board. Apparently, the principal would like to create outdoor classrooms for that reopening. So that's rather big news. But again, there's not a designated robust budget for it at this point.
Thank you, Laura. Really appreciate your time. And I wish we could spend more time educating those on the phone about outdoor learning. Unfortunately, we've got a really thick agenda. So it's a really important initiative. It's one that Horace Mann, which is one of our local public schools, elementary schools, is adopting. You'll see fifth graders out on the playground starting next week on Thursday and Friday for outdoor classes. And those fifth grade students all were able to go back to school. I think for those on the phone who may not know, you've heard that schools are opening. They are opening, but you will see a lot of kids still at home in your neighborhood. If you're wondering why they're there, it's because there's not a spot for them at school. So most of learning will still occur for DC public schools in a virtual setting. And I think that's important for people to know. But there are other options, including outdoor learning, that much of us in the city are really trying to champion across the city for equitable learning. So thanks so much, Laura. Any other neighborhood updates, Commissioner Rao? No, okay, sorry. Any other neighborhood updates? All right, we will move on.
Mr. Figgs has raised his hand.
Hi.
I'm sorry, could not see.
Hi, I'm Steve Fagan. I only take about 30 seconds of your agenda time. I live on the 4500 block of Macarthur Boulevard. For the last 2 years, the neighbors in this part of the Palisades have been experiencing increased security problems, trespassing, disturbances, distribution of drugs, public sexual activities. The amount of MPD to 2 buildings in particular has increased 1,000% on the average of last year of MPD and EMS coming out approximately every other day to formerly very, very quiet Palisades. What has occurred in the last 2 years are 2 buildings, 4560 and 4564, have become either 100% or nearly 100% filled by voucher tenants. And there's lots of different vouchers, including rapid rehousing. As a result of the city not providing the mandated wraparound services for these folks, there's been an enormous outbreak of tension in the neighborhood. As I mentioned, the police are coming. We're on the average of every other day. We have talked to Council Member Dcha, we've talked to Phil Mendelson, we've talked to Anita Bonds, we've talked to our ANC commissioners, we've talked to MPD, we've talked to DCHA. It's been 2 years, the problem is not improving. We're having disturbances on a constant basis for multiple problems. The only thing I'm asking is if, with the help of my ANC commissioners, that we can have a couple minutes to properly present at the next meeting or in April. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will certainly propose that for the agenda for next month. And thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else that I missed? No, okay. All right, well, we will move on to a discussion which relates to the paid family leave policy. So I'm going to turn it over. Chairman Elkins, I'm not sure who I'm supposed to actually be calling on for this.
It's not for me, no. We did that last meeting, I think. I don't think it's on the agenda.
Oh, wait, am I now? Hold on. I moved to the wrong agenda. I'm sorry. I'm new and nervous here. I was going to say, I'm like, where is Commissioner Penrose info on here. I'm very sorry. We're moving on to a discussion quickly from Commissioner Pemberl, and then we'll spend 15 minutes discussing the Wesley Seminary campus plan. So turning it over. And
Thank
my
you.
apologies.
That's right. So we'll pivot please to Wesley Seminary campus plan update. I'll turn it over in just a minute to the president of the seminary, David McAllister Wilson, who will represent, as well as Pat Brown. And as a reminder for attendees, tonight is an informational presentation, no decisions expected. The balance of this conversation is happening via the CLC process. So tonight will be a 15-minute update from the seminary on their campus plan process and plans. We'll ask the seminary team please to hold it to that time because we have a very packed agenda. We'll then open it up for 10 minutes of commentary or questions from commissioners and community members, and cut it off again at that 10 minutes, not to curtail this important conversation, but again, to drive it to the next CLC meeting, which will be scheduled in February, where we welcome input from all neighbors. So with that, David, I will turn it to you. Pat, you should have the ability to share your screen at your discretion.
And it's saying host disabled, participant screen sharing.
Riley, are you able to activate that for us? And David, maybe you can kick it off while we sort that.
Why don't I do that? Good evening. I'm David McAllister Wilson. I'm the president of Wesley Theological Seminary. Just briefly introduce or reintroduce you to Wesley. We came to this campus in 1958, building most of the buildings you see now at the same time. We were designed as a hilltop academic community nestled next to AU, which is a sister institution in our Methodist denomination. We are known as center progressive and broadly ecumenical, considered one of the few truly national and international seminaries. Our alumni serve as pastors and leaders of nonprofits and NGOs around the world, including a strong presence here in Washington. We are one of the most ethnically diverse seminaries. In particular, over 40% of our students are African American, most of them from the Washington area. I have lived and worked in this neighborhood for nearly 40 years, starting as a student. I am personally interested in the effect of this project on Spring Valley. This will achieve a long-standing desire in this area to move as many students as possible onto the campus precincts of our two institutions. This is a bigger building than what is being taken down. However, it is in the scale of nearby AU buildings, including the proposed new sports complex. It will also be aesthetically more pleasing and greener than the parking lot and the aging dorms which it replaces. Developing this portion of our campus has been part of our thinking since our 2006 master plan. We have renovated all the other buildings and built a new dorm in 2014. This project is our last, completing the renewal of this campus. It is not predicated on any growth in our enrollment. Traffic is always an issue, and we will conduct a thorough traffic study. Nearby neighbors may be concerned about the encroachment of students in the neighborhood. This was a concern about AU's Cassell Hall a few years ago, but those fears did not materialize. We selected Landmark as a partner in this development because they are the nation's leading experts, not only in constructing purpose-built student housing, but also in managing adult student residence. Wesley has a great interest in this issue and will be a full partner in establishing student living covenants. The Wesley Green Buffer Zone with the neighbors will be enhanced. The increasingly derelict President's Home will be demolished along with the adjacent parking lot, and that space will be landscaped. The new administration building taking its place will sit higher on the hill and have the look and size of a home. We are working with neighbors to design a playground. As always, Wesley welcomes you to our grounds, our eating facility, our art center, and our library and our chapel when it opens, and our sledding hill when it snows. Some have asked about the relationship with AU in this proposal. We have kept AU informed of this project and they have expressed general support. However, there has been no discussion of a master lease. I know we are proposing in this master plan a substantial building. The marketing study conducted by Landmark shows ample need among undergraduate and graduate students at Wesley and AU. The revenue potential is critical to give us the financial strength to be competitive at the top tier of seminaries worldwide, to provide first-rate living quarters for our students, and most importantly, to continue to serve this community and provide seminary education in a national and international metropolis. Thank you for the time and attention this evening. I'm always available for questions and conversation. Pat?
All right, and I've shared the screen here. Just starting off, my name is Patrick Brown. I'm from Greenstein, Delorme, and Lux, and I've been land use counsel for the seminary since 2005 when it initiated its first campus plan. I'm showing a picture here of the famous iconic sledding hill that was in busy use the other day. Wesley's current campus plan is set to expire in June 31st of this year. And between now and then, the plan is to file a new campus plan for the seminary. That plan will have several elements which we're going to go through this evening, and will feature: one, the demolition of the old president's house and landscaping, a new residential style administration building nestled next to the recently built new residence hall, and the student built housing by Landmark in what is now the parking lot for the campus. And you can see here on this drawing very quickly, there's the parking lot. Surrounding it are the Carroll Hall and Strawn Hall apartment dormitory buildings. Those buildings date back to the late 1950s and will be demolished. The new residence hall, which was approved and built in 2014, will remain in place. All the existing buildings, the academic chapel, library, and administration building will remain in place. The old president's house here along University Avenue will be demolished, and that area, the parking area and the site of the house, will be re-landscaped to make a continuous green area along University Avenue, which has always been a central feature of the Wesley campus and its plan. The Wesley campus plan is separate from and will be considered wholly separate from the American University plan. So that's important to consider as we go forward. At this point, I think one last point is with everything proposed for the campus plan and maintaining particularly the green buffer area, Wesley will not come anywhere close to using the available development rights on the site, which is important, and why the green area buffer zone is so important. With that, I'd like to ask Steve Karcha to just give us a brief description of the new admin building that's being proposed.
I'm Stephen Karcha. I'm with Advanced Project Management. We've been the project construction manager for Wesley since 2005 and overseen the original campus plan as well as the latest work with the new residence hall built in 2014, as Pat alluded to. The existing president's house, which is in disrepair, it's used for some storage now, will be demolished. We'll fill in that basement, create a large green space with landscaping there, taking out the existing curb cut as well and the driveway adjacent to it. In order to bring the administration building back into the campus, we've tried to nestle it into the grade between the new residence hall. If you could go back, Pat, I'm sorry. Between the new residence hall and the service drive. And The building is proposed to be about 5,200 square feet on 2 floors. It houses administrative offices as well as a small maintenance facility that's looks like a garage on a residential house. Next, Pat. With some elevations here on the top left picture is an elevation that you would see from University Avenue. Again, the size and character of the building, the windows and such are that of a residential building. Brick cast stone to match the architectural features of the other buildings on campus with asphalt shingles. On the right-hand side is the view from the service drive with the overhead door to go into the maintenance facility. Next. The left picture here is, as you would see it, as you're looking from the center of campus down toward University, you'd walk into the upper level, and then there's stairs inside to take you to the lower level. The view on the right-hand side is from behind the new residence hall looking toward the service drive. Next. And lastly, we've inserted a rendering of it in. This is taken from the University Drive entrance up the service drive. As you see, it is nestled into the hillside there next to the new residence hall, which you see the gable roof at the end and the back of Strawn Hall to the left of it.
I'd like to introduce Eric Leith from Landmark Properties.
Hi, yes, my name is Eric Leith, Landmark Properties. Landmark is a national vertically integrated student housing company. We develop, own, and operate student housing across the country. That's our sole focus. We are partnering here with Wesley Seminary to develop a new dormitory building to house graduate and undergraduate students. It would target both Wesley Seminary students and American University students. The building itself that we are proposing would be much more environmentally and sustainable than the current service parking lot in terms of both LEED Gold status and current stormwater management. It also incorporate solar and green roof elements. Knowing that sustainability and construction is very important, both in the district and in general. Further, we have been working with the seminary to ensure that all the student residents of this complex will be held to a strict code of conduct. As David mentioned earlier, we are very sensitive to maintaining a quality environment in this neighborhood. And so we'd be working with the seminary directly to ensure that that is enforced. Also, as mentioned previously, we understand that this project would be a large addition of beds in this area. And as such, we would be conducting a full traffic study as part of our initial proposal. Parking for the project would be, as contemplated, would be below grade for 2 levels and would include parking both to replace the current parking for the seminary and parking for the student residents of the project. Knowing we're short on time, I've tried to keep this very brief. I'm happy to try to answer questions or touch on anything that anybody feels like I've overlooked.
And one additional comment is, just as we did for the last campus plan and the construction of the new residence hall, we would have a construction management agreement with the neighborhood in regards to the construction activities, all worker parking offsite, not in the neighborhoods and such. We would undergo that same process that was successful last time.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen. I'd like to turn this over to Ed Fischer, if we could, with American University.
Thank you, Chairman Gila. This is Ed Fischer, Assistant Vice President for Community and Government Relations at American University. I just wanted to go on record here to say that AU takes no position on Wesley's plan. We recently learned of this level of detail just a few weeks ago, and we continue to move forward with our campus plan with the intention of targeting 500 additional beds on our campus for our students. So I just wanted to be clear on that for anybody who might have a question, that at this time we take no position on the proposal.
Thank you very much. given that we've run out of our 15 minutes time with the presentation, I do want to make sure that we allot the 10 minutes that we wanted for community discussion. For those in the community who do want to speak, we will need to limit the discussion to under 2 minutes each. And obviously, this is just a discussion right now. We are not making any decisions, and we wanted to make sure that we were giving the community the information that was needed now, and obviously there will be more discussions later.
Could I interject?
So with that, I'll open it up. Yes.
Just
yes,
briefly, while we have this presentation, we're not going to go through it. It would be appreciated if the ANC would make that available on its website. That would be helpful. And also turn the final 2 pages or the final pages contact information for us so that people can reach out.
That would be terrific. Thank you very much. All right, with that, I am going to turn it over to Commissioner Pemerel to lead a community discussion. And I'm looking for anyone right now with a hand raised who would like to speak.
I'll start with Commissioner Bergman. It looks like you have a question, Ben.
Yeah, no, I just had a question about the range of type of residential options, and so it's in particular like family housing. Is that contemplated for students with families, or is that not something that'd be contemplated for this dormitory?
Yes, it would be.
Yes.
And it's important to note that Wesley currently provides family housing for its students in the buildings that are being demolished. So this will be an important to recreate that housing in the new building.
Thank you.
Jerry, I see your hand raised.
Thank you for the opportunity to just say a word, and I'll be very brief. In general, I think the seminary has been a good neighbor, and having a healthy seminary is in the interest of the neighborhood. Having said that, as was noted in the presentation, this is a big project. There are many questions left unanswered, and I think that the process that Elizabeth was beginning to describe will be very important to work out quite a few details. Among those are, I think, a real need to have a clear agreement between the seminary and the university on a variety of things, beginning with, but certainly not ending with, the fence that AU owns that separates the two institutions. So I look forward to that, and I won't go into the rest of the issues, simply to say that I think that this is a major project that will take a good bit of discussion. Thank you.
Pat, to that end, you are considering the next CLC meeting later this month. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So as soon as we can get that date out to the neighbors, that would be very helpful. Thank you. And Ben, did I see your hand raised for a second question, Commissioner?
Yeah, just one quick question. This is sort of maybe a research question that maybe could come back to us, but it's my understanding that there are a lot of students who live around ANC 3D. And so I guess I'd be interested to know if you have any data about where students are living now and how this would perhaps free up apartments that they are currently using in other parts of the community, and so we can consider that impact when thinking about this development. That just would be helpful data for us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. A final request for questions or comments from neighbors. Excellent. Well, I'm sure we'll have a robust discussion on the next CLC meeting, and we'll look forward to seeing many of you then. Thank you to the seminary team for joining us. Paige, I'll turn it back to you for the next item on the agenda.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we're going to move on to 3020 University Terrace and Commissioner Nanavati. And thank you, Riley. Kate.
Oh, sorry. It wouldn't be a Zoom call. Good evening, everyone. Great to be here and see you all. And thanks, Mr. Gordon Kitt, for joining and for bringing this agenda item to the ANC tonight. The application for the historic designation of 3020 has been reviewed by a number of commissioners, along with a strong letter of support for the historic designation based on both former residents, Chief Judge Bazelon, and a former senator and presidential nominee, McGovern. So, but as well, also the architecture merits consideration, as was strongly endorsed by a PhD architect that was, this letter of support was submitted with the application. So I think on those merits, there were no objections to the ANC lending its support for Mr. Kitt's application. And there was one or two questions that arose from members of the PCA about if this would affect a long-running debate on sidewalks, but that argument was put to rest because the historic designation applies to the structure on the property and not the public space. So not to conflate those two issues. So with that, I think that there really were no concerns in the lead up to this meeting. And I would motion to approve the letter of support for Mr. Kitt's residence, 3020 University Terrace, unless there are any questions or concerns.
Is there any discussion? Then, do we have a second? All in favor? Riley, were you able to get that? Okay.
Looks like everybody.
I
think Michael just joined. So
and then Michael Tracy. Yeah.
Sorry, I know Michael had noted his.
All right, I'm sorry.
Come on.
Had noted his support in the lead up to this. So if he wants to chime in, and I know in addition to the letter of support that we've drafted, I know there's a presentation that will be circulated and could also be posted on the site if commissioners and members of the public are interested to review the presentation in more detail.
All right, thank you so much. All right, why don't we move on to our next agenda item? I'll just preface this item with we're not here to talk about the use of the property. We are only here to talk about the city purchasing the property. We will plan to do another roundtable discussion later this year on overcrowding in the Wilson Feeder School Network. And so this is only a vote on to give our support to the purchase of the property. So with that, I will turn this over to, I believe, Commissioner Simkowitz. JP.
Thank you, Chairperson Ela, not Elkins, Ela. Sorry about that. We're 5 minutes behind. I hope to get caught up on this one because it should be without controversy. As the members of the public know, shortly after taking office 2 years ago, I convened a meeting with the mayor's office and the school board to discuss overcrowding in Ward 3 in general and the use of the former Hardy Middle School site, which is now occupied by the Lab School on Reservoir Road, which is in my single member district. As a result of that meeting, I think substantial progress has been made in identifying opportunities for the district. And a few weeks ago, I received notice from the Department of General Services, DGS, about the purchase by the city of the former Georgetown Day School site, GDS. And I know that DGS and GDS are very confusing, but in any event, DGS is the government, GDS is the school. The school has been vacant for a period of time, and that property has been on the market. The District of Columbia is in negotiations to buy it. It's 5.6 acres located at 4530 Macarthur Boulevard. And I prepared a letter that stated that ANC has no objection to this proposed acquisition, and in fact, strongly supports this acquisition in order to provide the District of Columbia Public Schools with additional options to address overcrowding in Ward 3. Additionally, ANC 3D believes that large parcels of land such as the site of the proposed acquisition do not come available on the open real estate market very often, and therefore it is in the best interest to acquire this property before it was sold to private entities and used for non-governmental purposes. As Chairperson Elas stated, we're not here to decide whether this is going to become a public elementary school, middle school, or high school. Rather, should this purchase be approved by ANC 3D? So with that, I ask if there's any questions. There's a Chris Stacy with her hand up. Can you unmute your microphone, please? Thank you.
So I live on Q Street between GDS and the current lab school, right across from the Hardy Rec Center. And I have no objection to the district acquiring the GDS property, but Foxhall Elementary has also been proposed on our same street. And we've done reasonably well with some frustrations having two schools on our 2-block street. Having 3 schools on our 2-block street is really stressing the neighbors because there are a lot of major impacts with that. You know, I think we're at our limit with 2, and so I know I don't want to overlap that conversation too much with just your, wanting to keep a tidy vote on this one issue, but it does make a very significant difference to the neighbors whether we're dealing with 2 schools on our street or 3 schools on our street, one of which would be a 500 student addition that has not been here before.
I understand there has been little to no outreach by the government about this, quote, Foxhall School that is going to be built on the campus of Old Hardy, where the lab school is currently. I don't personally know how they can do that, considering the fact that the Hardy Park would have to be used in total or in part to construct this Foxhall School. It doesn't make sense. And furthermore, it doesn't make sense considering the fact that the District of Columbia has been spending hundreds of thousands of dollars preparing plans for the Hardy Park. And then in addition to that, they are going to be, they're already in construction. So I agree with you that it doesn't make any sense, but we're gonna have, as Chairperson Elas stated, additional discussions about that. I think, just looking at the plan, it makes zero sense, and I'd be remiss to say that I would support it, building a second school in the Hardy Park location. That's why this acquisition is so important. It gives the government another parcel of land to build a school, or in this case, the school buildings are already existing, to use the school. So I hope that addresses your concerns. And please keep in mind that we will have, as Chairperson Elas said, another meeting on this, and we will invite everybody like I did 2 years ago. The mayor's office, the school board, every member of the community that wants to participate, the FCCA, the PCA, because this is a critical issue for the community for the reasons that you stated.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I have no problem with the GDS property being acquired, and I have a huge problem with a brand new school coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, and you're not the only person that has made that comment and that observation, and I certainly hear it. It's in my single member district. I hope that all of my fellow commissioners hear that, how ridiculous the concept of a second school right next to Hardy Middle is. My wife went to Hardy Middle when it was at that location. I know most people call it lab school, but when she went to it, it was Hardy Middle, and that's how I know it. But we have to have that second discussion, and it's a critical discussion. So thank you very much. I think there's Ann Haas is on the line by telephone, I believe. Ms. Haas?
Hi, JP. Thank you so much for those comments. Yeah, this is a real concern to immediate neighbors in terms of, well, first let me say, acquiring Georgetown Day School would be a great asset. 506 acres with all of the amenities on that property that has been used for as many as 575 students is a very good thing. And to endorse what Chris was saying, we hear about 550 kids on the Hardy site, and how that would happen is really beyond me. And I'm particularly concerned if excavation is bandied about. Mary Chay's office has noted that there will be school improvement teams for the GDS site and for the Foxhall Elementary School. So that has me a bit concerned. And you probably are aware that the budget for the Foxhall School was 56 million and Georgetown Day is 48 million. So right there we have 100 million for two schools within 2 blocks. Major commitment of space, and it's not really with broad verandas. It's pretty tight already. So I appreciate your concern and just wanted to run those figures by you.
Yeah, and thank you for coming. I know we've been discussing via email. You're a former commissioner. You had my job, is that correct? About 10 years ago?
Yes.
And you've lived in the community for how long? I know you've lived here for a long time.
Well, I grew up here, and
Yeah.
I'm a product of the public schools as well. So my heart is with them.
Yeah, and I think that's important for everybody to hear that former Commissioner Haas has been active. She's been very helpful to me, but she's also the eyes and ears of the community. So I think that we have to take her opinion seriously, as we do everyone else. But thank you for presenting your opinion. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on this?
And JP, I would ask that perhaps other people with a different point of view as well. Thank you.
JP,
Ms. Haas and Ms. Stacy.
Trisha Duncan has her hand raised.
Okay, go ahead, President Duncan, and
Thank you.
state your
Thank you,
affiliation.
JP. I just want to let people know, as obviously these 2 buildings becoming additional schools in our neighborhood, I recognize is a huge change, but overcrowding in Ward 3 Wilson feeder pattern is a huge issue. And for students who are attending these schools, this is going to help with that solution. There is a community working group. I think members here, people on this Zoom have been invited to participate in that. I agree with Commissioner Sinkowitz that you should let your views be known to your ANC rep, but overcrowding has to be addressed in Ward 3, and it means more schools. Thank you.
And President Duncan, can you explain your affiliation, who you represent as well?
So I'm here tonight as the president of the Palisades Community Association, but I am on that working group as a parent of Hardy Middle School.
Thank you. Chairperson Ela, we have commissioner questions, and if there are none, I move to bring this to a vote.
Any discussion? Do we have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. All right, all in favor? Riley, did you get everyone?
Freaky, but
Riley, I think it was unanimous.
yeah, we're missing
It looks
Sariki, but
unanimous.
Michael's
So Michael's right
Yeah.
there at the bottom.
Michael's down at below.
Commissioner Shariki agrees with the vote. He votes in favor.
There we go. All right. Let's move on. And
Yeah,
my
Madam
screen
Chairman,
went black again.
Fashion roll call vote is the most efficient way to do this over Zoom. I've said it 10 million times.
All right. Thank you so much. We will move to that with the next one. I agree. All right. We're back to Commissioner Nanavati with the Evola awning support.
Great.
I think this should be fast.
Yes, this should be fast too. Our beloved Belgian restaurant on Macarthur Boulevard. They've done a really great job throughout the pandemic to accommodate the elements by setting up tents and outdoor dining facilities. This is an application to erect 2 poles on the sidewalk and extend the awning to have a safer and warmer dining experience for customers. So this is a letter in support of their application 361153. And so they have talked to their neighbors and relevant experts in the construction industry, and they're confident that they can do this safely and with minimal disruption to their neighbors. So I think we should go ahead and support a business that is being creative to survive the winter months during the pandemic. And it's a longstanding favorite, I know, of many in this district.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins.
Thank you. All in favor? We can do an aye.
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 Thank you.
Not a roll call.
All right, moving on.
Madam Chairman, you did not ask for no's.
Oh, any no's? Thank you. All right, we are moving on the agenda to 4828 Sedgwick Street, special exception from Commissioner Pemberl.
Yes, this should also be brief. This is a BZA special exception request related to a rear yard variance. This is for a very modest addition to a home that does not materially change the home's footprint, nor is it visible from the street. And we have received letters of approval from both immediately adjacent neighbors. So given that, I move to approve the special exception request. The drawings are available on the 3D website for anyone interested to take a look.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any no's? All right, we're moving on. Next one on the list is 5945 52nd Street. This is in my neighborhood. It happens to be 2 houses down from me. And this is a house that is going to be demolished. And the owners of the property also happen to be my neighbors, and they're building a new house on this property. And what they're looking to do right now is to move the driveway, and they're asking for a curb cut exception. What you can see from the map, from the drawing, is that the driveway is on the far right side of the drawing. And what's hard to see from the drawing is the elevation. the driveway happens to be right at the crest of the hill, which is really not safe. And so the concept is to move the driveway over to the other side of the property and allow for better storm drainage, as well as a safer entry and exit from the driveway so that they're not on the crest of the hill and where the turn is. So there's a safety component and just a functionality component for that family with young children who want to be able to use the driveway. And we also have a serious speeding issue on my street. So driveways are really necessary to be in the right space because of the speeding. So with that, I would make a motion that we approve this curb cut application and are seeking a second.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
noes? Any noes? Okay, we will keep on moving on. Thank you very much. Next one on the list is 4865 Macarthur Boulevard. I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Nanavati.
Chairperson Ela, if it's okay with you, I believe Commissioner Shrieky is our expert on the Safeway site. I am endeavoring to get smarter on the issue. Commissioner Rao and I did attend the meeting, but if it's okay with you, I will cede the mic to Commissioner Shrieky.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Shrieky.
What you want? Is that okay?
Madam Chair,
Let's
I suggest we move on to another item, come back to
Yep.
Commissioner Shrieky is available.
We will do that. Next item on the list is we are going to move on to the letter. This is Commissioner Bergman. This is a letter to the OAG and the OHR regarding 4457 Macarthur Boulevard project.
Great. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I don't know if anybody is here in the audience to address this, but I'll just say something briefly and then turn it over to if there are people to speak to it in opposition.
Commissioner Bergman, there is Susie McClanahan from the Equal Rights Center who's on the call.
Okay, so I'll just so people understand very briefly. This letter that the ANC is considering that I proposed would refer certain allegations that have come to the ANC through various channels from members of the community, from a letter that we received from the Equal Rights Center, suggesting that a developer in our area may have engaged in block busting, which would be a violation of fair housing laws. We are not in a position to evaluate that, as we lack fact-finding powers that you would need. And I don't think it's appropriate for us to try to weigh in on that. So this resolution would refer those allegations to the Office of Attorney General in DC and the Office of Human Rights in DC, both of which have the authority to investigate this, and it's within their jurisdiction. So I'll turn it over to JP, who did you say was here? Sorry.
It's a representative of the Equal Rights Center.
Okay. You can unmute
Yep.
yourself.
So we're going to turn it over to Susie McClanahan, and I might be butchering your last name. I'm so sorry. And then to the extent we have any rebuttals, we'll give 5 minutes for each group. So we'll move over to Susie for 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, ANC3D, for inviting me to speak tonight. My name is Susie McClanahan, and I'm the Fair Housing Rights Program Manager at the Equal Rights Center. The Equal Rights Center is a civil rights organization that identifies and seeks to eliminate unlawful and unfair discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodations in its home community of Greater Washington, D.C. and nationwide. For many years, the ERC has conducted intakes with individuals in the district who believe they may have experienced housing discrimination, investigated individual claims in systemic forms, of housing discrimination, pursued enforcement of the Fair Housing Act and DC Human Rights Act as needed, and conducted education and outreach about fair housing protections and requirements. I'd first like to provide some background about blockbusting and housing discrimination laws in order to better contextualize the allegations of blockbusting at 4457 Macarthur Boulevard Northwest. The Fair Housing Act is a landmark civil rights law that was passed in 1968. The law was passed thanks to the civil rights movement and racial justice activism led by Black community members. Housing segregation throughout the 1900s made it extremely difficult for Black Americans to access safe and affordable housing. Many were pushed into expensive yet substandard and overcrowded housing due to discriminatory practices by both real estate professionals and the federal government. These practices included, but were not limited to, redlining, racial covenants and deeds, and blockbusting. Blockbusting refers to a practice that was most commonly used by real estate professionals and developers during the 1900s to induce white homeowners to sell their homes for below market value in order to make a greater profit off the sale. They would inform white homeowners in a neighborhood that Black families would be moving in, intentionally playing into racist fears held by those homeowners regarding neighborhood integration. The homeowners would sell their homes for below market value and move further into all white suburban communities in what we now call white flight. The practice was particularly contemptible because it used a narrative of neighborhood integration in order to make a profit, while at the same time maintaining or even worsening neighborhood segregation. Blockbusting is now illegal under both the Federal Fair Housing Act and the DC Human Rights Act. The Fair Housing Act defines blockbusting as for profit to induce or attempt to induce any person to sell or rent any dwelling by representations regarding the entry or prospective entry into the neighborhood of a person or persons of a particular race or persons of another federally protected class. The DC Human Rights Act contains a substantially equivalent definition and additionally defines blockbusting as to place a sign or display any other device, either purporting to offer or tending to lead to the belief that an offer is being made for a transaction in real property that is not in fact available or offered for a transaction, or which purports that any transaction in real property has occurred that in fact has not. Blockbusting on the basis of race or source of income would be illegal under the DC Human Rights Act. Source of income is a protected class in the district and makes it illegal to discriminate against individuals on the basis of how one pays their rent, such as the use of a housing voucher. Source of income and race discrimination are closely related in DC. There are currently over 10,000 households that use housing choice vouchers, which is formerly known as Section 8, in the city. Over 90% of voucher holders are Black, despite only making up 48% of the city's population. Due to the makeup of the voucher program, references to voucher holders can sometimes be proxies for illegal racial references under fair housing laws. Multiple individuals contacted the Equal Rights Center with allegations of blockbusting related to the property at 4457 Macarthur Boulevard Northwest, which was purchased by Hossein Kamyab in July 2020. An agent acting on Mr. Kamyab's behalf allegedly approached Don Leah, homeowner at 4459 Macarthur Boulevard Northwest, during the summer of 2020 in order to inquire about purchasing her home. In August 2020, Dr. Leah allegedly posted a sign indicating that her property would soon be for sale. And the next day, a sign was allegedly posted at 4457 Macarthur Boulevard Northwest that stated, Section 8 and student accommodations coming soon. The sign allegedly remained on the property for several months, and residents alleged that the purpose of the sign was to influence a real estate transaction for Mr. Kamyab's benefit by playing into negative stereotypes about housing voucher holders, low-income Black renters who are disproportionately likely to use a housing voucher in the district, and students. The ERC opened an investigation in response to these fair housing allegations. As part of the investigation, the ERC sent Mr. Kamyab a letter on January 15th, 2021, making him aware of the allegations and asking that he provide evidence that he intended to rent or sell units at 4457 Macarthur Boulevard Northwest to housing voucher holders or students. The ERC also asked that he provide further information about why he chose to post and remove the sign on his property when he did. The ERC has been in contact with Mr. Kamyab and his counsel They denied the allegations and have stated their intent to submit information later this month that challenges the allegations made. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there,
Thank you very much.
oh, sorry, Chairman.
Go ahead, Ben.
No, I just, I'm not
Commissioner
sure
Bergman.
if did counsel for the owner of the property, did they attend this meeting and wish to speak? I'd like to give them the opportunity if they're here. Okay, I mean, I'll turn it over to everybody else. I'll just say, you know, I think this, it's been suggested that we should defer this resolution till later and attempt to give an opportunity for the owner to provide more information. It's my view that that's not appropriate and prudent for the ANC to kind of embark on that kind of endeavor. As I said, I also would just underscore that I think the allegations here are very serious. The perniciousness of this kind of thing is particularly important given that you know, this ward needs more mixed income housing, and I think playing on prejudice and is particularly problematic and reprehensible. And then, but the one thing I'll say is this does not go to the merits of the application that's before the BZA. By segmenting this issue off, which is something that we are not able to decide whether it's true or not, because we don't have that authority or power to issue subpoenas, etc. We are able to focus on the zoning related issues and criteria that are within the scope of our power and authority and are something that we can figure out with the resources that we have. So I'll just turn it over to if any other commissioners or members of the public would like to speak. And I would note one change I noted in an email to Riley, the other commissioners, I'd like to add one name to the CC line, an individual in the OAG's office, the ANC liaison, to ensure that this letter gets, you know, through the right channels.
Commissioner Elkins.
Madam Chairman, I strongly support this the submission of this letter, but I would like to ask Commissioner Bergman a couple of questions to put it on the record, and I would ask Riley to make sure this it shows up in the minutes, if he would. So Commissioner Bergman, it's true, is it not, that this commission has not conducted any fact finding about the truth or falsehood of this allegation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so we have not made a finding of guilt or innocence on the part of the developer in this case. Is that correct?
That's correct. Nor have we attempted to try to do so.
That's not been our role. So our letter can be seen, is this correct, as a strong concern that if the allegations were correct, that this is a serious matter for our community and therefore should be investigated, but that we do not know the truth or falsehood of these. We're not in a position to judge. We don't know that, we don't have the technical capability, and we have not conducted an investigation to know whether this developer is guilty or innocent. Is that correct?
Correct.
Good. I think that is what your letter essentially says, but I think it's important for people to know we are not in a position to make that determination ourselves, and we're not doing that in this meeting.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Simkowitz, I'll recognize you.
Yeah, thank you. Riley, can you put the photograph of the sign, because I think that presents you know, what we're here for. Otherwise, it might be confusing. Is there a way to share that with everybody? And while Riley's doing that, Commissioner Bergman, would you agree to a friendly amendment to put that photograph inside your letter in the body of the letter itself? I think that, you know, the letter is, you know, is just words without the picture. I think the picture would make it pop, you know, to anybody reading it, to show what really is at issue here. And I strongly support your letter, and this is in my single member district. So thank you.
Of course. I mean, on the amendment, I'd be interested in hearing what other people think. JP and I went back and forth on this. It's attached. It currently is slated to be attached to the document. I thought that was maybe that it felt more like a piece of advocacy if it was in the document, but I understand that it does explain the situation more to the reader.
Yeah, again, we don't know. We're not making any factual findings of whether this is or is not quote unquote blockbusting, but I think that having the photograph in there highlights this is the issue that is being referred. Whether it's blockbusting or not for us to determine, but you know, when it's an exhibit, it might get overlooked as, you know, it's hard to read sometimes when you're just reading text what is at issue. And I think this is one case where a photograph might be able to save you know, a lot of explanation. Not that I think we should take any words out, but I think that this should be included in the body of the letter somewhere.
Okay, I'll accept your amendment. I'm not going to fight you. I should note for the audience too that the letter would attach, is slated to attach other materials that we've received, so that we can be, we would disclose everything that we've learned. So those materials are on ANC3D's website as well.
And Commissioner Bergman, I think I think you've made it clear, but I'd like it to be clear that the owner of the property denies all claims and insists that it engaged in no such alleged conduct. And you, I think rightly so, put that in the letter. Oh, and there was another thing about the sign was, quote, removed months ago, and that came from the owner of the property.
From their counsel, but yes.
Correct. And despite that, I still think that we should send the letter, and I agree with the resolution that you proposed.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
I'm ready.
Commissioner Bergman would
Okay.
have to move that this be moved for voting.
I thank you. It's my first time doing this. I move that the resolution be voted on.
And I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any noes? There are no noes. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you.
And Ms. McClanahan, thank you very much for your education of our group here. Thank you. All right, we are going to move back to Safeway, and between Kate and Michael, I'm hoping that we can walk through our letter, which is also posted up to our website. So I'm going to turn it over to the two of you.
Okay, I'll start us off, and then Michael chime in with what I've missed or gotten wrong. But basically, this is a proposed letter of support from the ANC to support a public space application for curb cuts along the perimeter of the applicant. So it's the old Safeway site and the new continuing care facility that's being proposed. And so the company Trammell Crow is looking at 3 proposed curb cuts along the perimeter of this area. The applicant convened residents and, sorry, one second. So the company convened representatives from the Palisades Community Association, as well as members of this ANC and residents. And I think there was a collaborative and constructive conversation, which shows that these public space, that the application for curb cuts will enhance the area. They've definitely done it in a way that would offer some enhancements consistent with some of the goals that we've had to improve walkability and livability. So I think for that reason, based on how the meeting went today, Commissioner Shrieky and Commissioner Rao, if you agree, I would I would like to move to make a motion to support the application by Trammell Crow to proceed with these public space improvements.
I certainly agree.
Yeah, I agree. And I second the motion.
All right. Do we have any discussion?
I had a question. Is there any difference between what you heard today in this meeting about these curb cuts from what this commission considered during the special meeting and other meetings leading up to our approval of their BZA application? Any significant changes?
Specifically to the curb cuts here, let's just not go beyond the curb cuts. Specifically to the items that will be before public space on February 25th, there are no changes. Some other potential public space works were raised, and I'm pretty confident that we can let Trammell Crow go forward the way the meeting went. I'm confident that we can let them go forward without delaying them, because as you know, Chuck, delay is not necessarily just until the March meeting. It could be much longer. So it was a very positive interaction.
So for the items that are not before the Public Space Committee in February, but are still public space issues to come, was there any commitment by Trammell Crow to engage with the community about those changes, or those plans rather?
Yes, absolutely. There was no there's no firm date for the next round of conversations, but you know, we'll be in touch with them.
So as far as I just to put a fine point on this, as far as the community is concerned, what I understand you're saying, all of you are saying, is that the changes that are going in front of the Public Space Committee in February, for which we would now be voting, are consistent with what they have told us in the past, and that we have discussed in ANC meetings, and that we have agreed to, and that there may be additional plans and ideas, which in fact are discussed in general in our memorandum of agreement, and they agreed to consult with the community. Those issues are still before us, in front of us, and there will be hopefully adequate consultation with the community. And if there are concerns, the public will have an opportunity to comment on these in some manner before the ANC were to act, if we do come forward to act on them before we make a decision. Am I?
So as a matter of fact, the items are all things that were known to us previously. As a matter of opinion, the applicants are open to moving forward on other areas of interest, you know, in a collaborative fashion. And if Tricia Duncan is still on, you know, I can say that the PCA representatives, I think, agreed with, you know, would agree with that characterization.
Yeah, if I can just add for the record, Commissioner Elkins, what I heard in terms of taking into account community concerns, which were affirmed today, were, you know, the affirmation that the curb cuts that were near would take into account the preservation of historic trees, and the paving would be, you know, some type of flexi paving that would allow for the roots of these historic trees to survive. There was an affirmation that a kiosk may move, but would ultimately be preserved in some way, shape, or form. You're shaking your head, Michael. Do you?
Oh, no. It's just the kiosk. We spend so much time on that kiosk.
It's gonna, you know, hopefully like dispense like magical COVID vaccines or something. I can't wait. But, anyway, you know, they also affirmed bike racks, benches, cafe tables. There were a number of things that they affirmed, including that I had heard presented this summer. by Trammell Crow and PCA that were reaffirmed, as well as open items for consideration for further kind of community enhancement or community consideration. That was the spirit that I took it, and there were, I believe, at least commitments on the historic trees and preservation of this magical kiosk, which remains to be seen what in what form that will take, but that it will be preserved somewhere around the perimeter.
I find these answers very satisfactory, and I certainly will provide a vote in favor of this. Thank you.
And to your question, Chuck, just for the record, the kiosk also I found elaborate discussion, but I felt like no matter what's going to happen next, it's going to be better than what it is now. So I'll put that in.
Okay, do we have any more discussion on this topic before we go to vote?
May I move to propose a vote to support the letter to allow this, to support the public space application?
Yeah, you did.
Yes, ma'am. And we have a second. So all in favor, let's just please note an aye.
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 All right. Those not in favor? All right, Riley, are you all set? Great. All right, we have two additions that were approved at the beginning of the meeting for this, and I'm going to start with actually just one for this, which is letters concerning the fences around the perimeter of the Capitol, and I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Streaky.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I appreciate our colleagues allowing this to go on the agenda for the purposes of timeliness. As you know, I shared with you the position that the Capitol Police have officially taken as of last week, that there should be a permanent security perimeter around the Capitol, which I hope we all think is a terrible idea. And we have proposed two letters to, one letter to Congresswoman Norton and two letters, one each to the House and Senate leadership, just to weigh in on this issue. We may be taking this campaign to other ANCs. So with that, I'm pleased to answer questions and move the adoption of the letters.
A second.
Thank you.
And thank you for writing it, Commissioner Streaky. I think it's an important letter.
Do we have any discussion before we move on to a vote? No. All right. Do we have a second? Oh, yes.
Sorry. I just want to remove myself from it. I don't know how to table this as a rookie commissioner, but in my day job, I pledge to be nonpartisan. And though you could argue this is a nonpartisan issue, it can be twisted in all sorts of ways that I just can't. I signed up for this as a nonpartisan commitment, and I don't see a security assessment that says we should take down. There's a whole host of issues that I don't want to take everyone's time with, that I don't feel. So I'm just tabling that I would like to remove myself from this discussion.
Madam Chair.
Yep, we will.
I was just going to mention that this is perfect timing. We've been saying we've been voting yes and no, but we haven't been adding the abstain. So this would be her opportunity to abstain if you want to add that because I think you're getting all the responses just by yes and no, but we just forget the abstain. So.
Thank you.
In this case, Madam Chairman, this is a recusal, not an abstention, though.
Okay. But Jeremy, thank you for that comment, and I'll make sure that I'm watching that as well and asking for that. All right, are we are ready to vote. Those in favor, and I think this is a vote where we should just note these carefully. Those in favor of the letter?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those not in favor of the letter? Riley, Elizabeth, was that correct?
I was in favor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. And then Kate has recused herself from this vote. Anyone abstaining from voting? Okay.
Are we making
right.
a distinction, Mr. Parliamentarian, between recusal and abstaining? I would like some illumination on that. I, of course, have no objection to her doing either one or the other, but I don't understand the distinction.
So I've never annoyed the rest of you with going into this. And recusal is, when you remove yourself from debate or voting, because there's some official reason that you don't wish to or aren't supposed to vote on something. As far as an abstention is the absence of a vote, so you're actually not voting, so your abstention doesn't get counted toward the super majority if you need it or something like that. And then there's the present vote, which is an affirmative vote, but just saying you were here and you voted, but you're not taking a side. So we have those are the options that there is a way to not vote yes or no without abstaining.
In this case, I'll
Thank
report
you.
it as 9 people voted in favor rather than 10.
Yeah, if you could note for the record, I've recused myself to Commissioner Shriki's point. I'd appreciate it.
Yes, I will.
And Commissioner Shriki, I know we talked about this probably 2 months ago. Just want to clarify it again, that it would still be, because of this, is considered a unanimous decision, right?
That's correct.
Yes, okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Commissioner Nanavati, I think you had a question about this related to the historic designation. Now might be an appropriate time to bring that up.
Not this, no, actually not for, there was a question about the sidewalk and the historic, are you talking about historic designation of 3020?
I meant if it was unanimous or no opposition. That feels related to this conversation.
Oh, I see. If commissioners had any opposition or wanted to abstain.
And so is that therefore unanimous if there was none? That was how I understood your question in the chat window.
Well, so Madam Chairman, sorry to interrupt, but what I believe was the topic was, if I understand, the applicant, Mr. Kitt, wanted us to note that the vote was unanimous, which technically is amending the letter, but I believe that's an acceptable.
I see. Okay, now, sorry, got it. Now I understand.
I would say that's an acceptable post amendment. He's very interested in this as formal as possible. He must not be familiar with how keen the Historic Preservation Review Board is usually, with the exception of Colony Hill, to designate anything that moves historic.
Apologies, Elizabeth. I misunderstood the question. But yes, this was not an amendment. Just to note, I think for the record, it will be noted that it was a unanimous vote in favor.
All right. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, I am happy to say that it is 9:10 and we are back on schedule. Thank you to everyone for choosing their discussions wisely here. We're going to move first to Chairman or Commissioner Elkins' request to add a decision on new members to the Transportation Committee. As I understand it, the chairman is the person who elects new members to the Transportation Committee through an official action. And so I would like to elect Ben Bergman, Elizabeth Pemroll, William Clarkson, and Natalie Ambrose. And I am still saying Natalie's last name incorrectly, to the Transportation Committee.
Madam Chairman, thank you. I just want to say that as chair of the Transportation Committee, along with Derry Allen, we've had a very effective Transportation Committee in our view, but a few of our neighbors have had to move on to other functions and other activities in 2021, and they asked for permission to resign, and we wanted to fill those positions. And so Derry and I are very happy to see that 2 commissioners are happy to serve on this committee, plus 2 other citizens. So I think that brings us back up to a full complement, and we appreciate your appointing them.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you for those who are willing to serve on this committee. It is not an easy committee to serve on, specifically when some of the harder discussions come up, and really appreciate everyone's involvement and thought process that goes into that committee, and to you, Chuck and Derry, for leading that committee so well. So thank you. All right, we are moving on to meeting date.
Could I just say one other thing, and that is that other members of the commission are always welcome to attend our meetings. The difference that we are making between a member of the committee and a commissioner who wishes to attend is simply, if you're a member of the committee, we can ask you to do things and give you assignments or ask you to take certain things. If you are coming, any commissioner is free, and we would very much welcome other commissioners to attend these meetings. We announce them ahead of time, and we invite your participation. And if at some point you would like to join the committee, I would certainly be in a position to ask the chair to appoint you to the committee as well. But please do participate, because what we have found is our neighbors really do care about transportation issues much more than we probably are aware in these meetings, and it's important to try to do the right thing. So please help us as we go forward on this. This is the way, just one more word, this is the way in which we get a lot of detailed work done ahead of time, so that commission meetings can have a report from the committee. You can agree or disagree, but you at least have staff work that you can react to, both before the meeting and during the meeting. So that's how this committee is working. It makes no decisions without, it has no authority to make decisions without the authority of the commission.
Thank you, Chairman Elkins. And having served on the De La Carlia committee, I can honestly say that the meetings are intense, and you know, I am very thankful to live in a neighborhood with active community members that really care so much about the quality of the neighborhood that they're living in. So thank you. Moving on, the next thing on the list are our proposed meeting dates, which are posted on our website. And what we need to do is adopt these dates for the year. And so, as you can see, the proposal is to stay with a consistent Wednesday meeting date, first Wednesday of the month. We have an August 4th meeting if we need it, but hopefully we can all take that month meeting off. So I guess Michael or Commissioner Strachey, Chairman Elkins.
Commissioner Elkins, thank you. There, two things. You're too used to calling me chairman. I'm only chairman of the Transportation Committee. Okay, that was appropriate. the December date is not the first Wednesday of the month. That is to avoid holidays. And secondly, the statute requires us to adopt 12 months worth of dates. And since as chairman, I failed to do this last time, and we're now having to do that this month, I was advised by Gottlieb Simon that we needed to adopt not only the dates for this year, but also for next year. And so I have proposed January 5th, which is the first Wednesday of January 2022, if you can look that far ahead. So we are adopting not just the dates for 2021, but also for 2022. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. So I will also put these up on our OneNote site under 2020 meeting calendar for those to reference. And can we just have a unanimous approval of this? Okay. How do I do that, Michael?
Okay. So just ask if there's any objection.
Are there any objections? No, all right. We have unanimous approval. Thank you very much.
Our allocation is once again safe.
All right. One other thing of note that reminds me, I have an email into Gottlieb Simon on our ancdc.gov website, which doesn't have correct information for the folks here. So we will get that updated. And that email went out today. So thank you, JP, for noting that. All right, we are going to move on here, and next item we have our approval. Approval of January minutes. Are there any revisions needed to January minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, those are approved. We also need an approval. There's a few accounting treasury items here. We need an approval of the mailbox renewal expense, which is a critical function for Riley and administrative function. Are there any objections?
$168, by the way, and I'll provide an invoice later. But I just paid it because I'm the only one that goes to the mail room.
So, Madam Chair, I think
thank you.
We need a motion just to make sure we do this correctly, because this is the kind of motion that that the auditor would just love to catch us up on. I move that we approve a reimbursement of Riley for the money he has spent for the renewal of the post office box for us.
Second.
Ask for a second. Yes, thank you.
Is there any discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? Is anyone abstaining from the vote? Okay. The mailbox renewal expense reimbursement, Riley, is approved. Next item on the list is PNC has advised us that it may make sense to open a savings account. I might be one of the only people here that works in the banking industry. There's an increase in fraud across bank accounts, and they're mainly occurring within checking and operating accounts such as ours. And so what many bankers are doing and what PNC recommended for us is setting up a separate account for us to use that wouldn't be connected with a checking account, so there couldn't be fraud associated with it to house most of our funds. Is that correct, Commissioner Elkins?
That's correct. And I explored with our treasurer, and Galeb Simon on Saturday during our training session on the intricacies of being treasurer, that the software which they provide us to do our accounting is very easily dealt with. It deals with savings accounts very easily. And therefore, I think this will not be a great burden for our treasurer. So therefore, I think it is without a great deal of pain. So therefore, I recommend.
Terrific. Okay. Shall I make a motion that we approve the use of a savings account for the majority of our funds? And do we need to, I guess, I'll open it up for a second.
I second.
Second it.
Okay, is there any discussion? I guess I have one discussion point.
I think we may want to authorize the treasurer to use his discretion about how much money to put into each account, with the objective of being as safe as possible, but with at the same time not giving him or the rest of us administrative difficulties. So I
agreed.
A friendly amendment to your motion.
Terrific. I'll accept that. All right, are we ready to vote? Those in favor?
Tricky is skeptical. I'm a fan.
Those opposed? Is anyone abstaining? No. Okay. All right. So we will set up a savings account so that we can avoid fraud on our account, which for those of you who are left on the phone, which I think is only a handful of people, be careful with your accounts because if you don't notice it on your account and don't notify your bank within 2 days, it is your responsibility as opposed to your credit card. So it can be very damaging, and fraud has gone up significantly over the last year, and people are getting very creative. All right, let's move on to the treasurer's report.
Great. So the treasurer's report, our opening balance in January was $62,856.24. Our ending balance for the month of January was $58,960.35. We had no income this month, but we had $3,895.89 worth of expenditures, $372 for transcription services, $15.89 to Mr. Chuck Elkins for Zoom, which we're all benefiting from, $3,505 for administrative services, and $3 to PNC Bank for paper statements for added security. That's all I have to report.
Madam Chair, during the past 2 years, I've used my credit card to essentially pay a lot of our expenses and ask for reimbursement. I'm willing to do that in the future if that is the wish of the commission. It's not a big problem to me. But someone needs to do that because they are not going to give us a credit card or a debit card. And as I think all of us are familiar with, it's very difficult to do business on the website, on the web, on the internet, with a written check, with a paper check. So unless there's an objection, I will just continue to extend my credit temporarily month by month to the commission. And I've been reimbursed appropriately in the past, and I'm sure I will be in the future.
Thank you very much. If you're willing to continue to do that, we appreciate it. All right. We have, if I may, there's there's one thing that I think is really critical about meetings is that everyone has an opportunity to contribute. And we have Christian, who has made his way through this whole meeting without an opportunity to contribute. And he had requested, and somehow I failed to add it, even though I emailed him and said that I would, to have a discussion on communication items and some ideas that he has. And since we are at 9:25 and this is not an official decision, I am wondering if the commission would indulge a few more minutes of their time so that we could listen to Christian.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And Paige, it was on your agenda, so don't worry about it. It was on the online one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But, basically, last week I sent all of the commissioners and Riley a list of proposed recommendations for how ANC3D can improve its communication strategy for the next term. I think that there are a variety of steps we can take to make sure that we are as accessible as possible to the general public, especially people who have been underrepresented in ANC discussions in the past, namely working families, students, and people with disabilities. So my specific recommendations were for us to start using social media in new ways, specifically by applying for a Nextdoor public agency account and establishing a Facebook page so that we can post and then eventually share to groups and everything like that. Also interested in finding new ways to use the listservs, because Chuck has done a great job of distilling our meeting agenda into a few great sentences that encourage people to come, but we can do more to make it visually appealing, so maybe it catches their attention in a flood of 1,000 emails from a listserv. And then finally, working to update the website. The content is very, very good. It includes, I think, almost everything that's necessary, but it needs to be modernized in appearance for a variety of reasons. One, just so that it adheres to the web content accessibility guidelines, so people with disabilities and the general public can use the website in an easier way. But two, just so that it's easier to use and more intuitive for people and feels more like a modern website. That's a longer term project than the other few items that I recommended. So Riley has agreed, as long as you guys are all okay with it, to take the lead on establishing a Nextdoor account and a Facebook page. But the website, I think is going to be a many months project of me working to update it and all of that. My plan is that we should keep the website as is for now, and I can make a copy and make all of the edits in a draft form so that when I'm finished, I can just present that to you guys and we can approve it before we publish it. So no final changes would be made until I presented it to you guys at a future meeting. That's all I have. So I don't know what procedural way you want to go about this. I don't think it's an official decision, but as long as it's something you guys are all okay with.
I just have one question, Commissioner, is if you update the website, you're going to be doing it, I guess, on your time, or are we looking to hire consultants for that? Because website redesigns are very expensive.
Oh, that can be very pricey.
Yeah.
No, I can do it in my free time. I, on the side, work on political campaigns a lot where I design websites. So it just is, I'm more than capable of doing it. And it was built on Wix, so it's very, very easy to overhaul. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll do it on my own time, but obviously it's a longer term project because I am a student and I'm a little bit busy, but I'm happy to devote some time to it.
Okay, great. And that would be easily, I guess, managed by anyone else, right, in the future? Whatever, however, I guess it'll stay on Wix or, whatever we're using right now.
Yeah, however it's hosted now, I think would stay the same. And it's just access that would be provided to me. Nothing else would change.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I commend you for this, Christian,
Thank you
especially
so much.
in adherence to the accessibility guidelines. That's a standard for anyone doing business with federal government. It's a standard for every government agency. So it's something we should absolutely strive to achieve as well. So thank you.
Christian, I support this very much. I would only say that we need to be careful on updating the website just from a technical point of view. You and I can talk about this, but it's an active website. So Riley and I constantly post to it. So if you were to make a copy, you're going to be out of date pretty soon. So you can't simply, when we all approve it, just move it over. You're going to have to redo it, I'm afraid. We'll have to work out some technical aspect to this because or else Riley and I don't post to it for, well, we might not be able to post for 2 weeks or something, but we can't go a whole month without.
Oh no, so I think certainly the last month before we publish the website, I'll have to manually just move over, but I can't imagine that'll be too difficult as long as, I copy paste all of the right links on Dropbox. So yes,
Right. This thing was designed 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm sure it needs some help.
Well, we're excited and happy for your contribution here. So thank you, Christian. With that, are we ready to adjourn the meeting at 9:30?
Well done, Madam Chairman.
Chairperson Ela, this is the first time we've ever finished early in my tenure. So thank you very much for leading such a great meeting.
It helps to have really good new leadership. Thank you. Yeah.
I'd like to thank everyone here for staying on top of their emails all month. It is not easy to keep up with everything else going on in our lives. And, we are a young group with young children, and for many of us, and there's a lot that pulls on us. So I want to thank everyone for their patience with me over the month, and hopefully I will continue to get better. I'll also be sending out for feedback. It'll be anonymous, so don't worry. Any feedback is good feedback. So I'll send out an online survey as well to get some feedback from everyone, and just appreciate everyone's time tonight. And with that, we are adjourned until March. Thank you.
You have to make a motion, I think, Chairperson Ela.
Oh, all right. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
I object.
I
apologize. I apologize. May I ask unanimous consent to be recorded as having voted in the affirmative on the issue of 3945 52nd Street?
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Do we have any other discussions before we?
Chairperson Ela, are we going to are we not going to discuss SharePoint tonight? Are we going to save that for another day, or is that like just not?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's going to be more. There's no decision surrounding it, and I think we have. I guess what I will say to everyone who's still on the line, as well as commissioners. We're looking at using the DC provided SharePoint site to allow for us to collaborate on drafting of documents real time, so that we can all see each other's changes in a real time basis. And so that commissioners can really comment on whether a change is friendly or not friendly. And that'll help us all kind of understand the drafting of the document. And what I'm looking to do as much as possible is utilize the Microsoft suite that we've been provided, since it's in a secure environment, to optimize some of our workflows, specifically since we all do this in a volunteer role, and want to make sure that we're being thoughtful of our time and utilizing technology, the latest technology, to the best of our abilities.
Yeah. Right.
So if there's anyone here,
by the end
so
of
we'll
next
be
week,
working on guidelines. Thank you so much. And if there's anyone here who is a SharePoint super user, please reach out to Riley. We played around with it last week a little bit, and we're still trying to optimize that. So any other suggestions on technology, et cetera, please let me know.
It might be helpful for those of us who are not who do not use SharePoint, have not in the past, but want to in the future, to maybe know where we might get trained up a little bit on it, so we make sure we do it right. So maybe Riley could find, make sure we, as you say, we have some guidelines and know how to do it.
Yeah, and I think that can easily be handled in a another, like, we can do a separate Zoom meeting where it's like a 20-minute Zoom meeting to like go through it, because I think what you're gonna recognize, it's gonna look like a computer drive. Ultimately, you're very familiar with a computer drive. You're very familiar with creating folders. You're very familiar with putting documents in folders, and that's what that's what this is going to look like ultimately. So I think you just need to get your eyes on it, and then once that happens, I think we'll be set. And I think ultimately, with all of these drafts that are coming up, we can have separate folders for them. So if commissioners want to look at the draft on 4457, they can just click on that folder and they'll see that all the documents associated with 4457, or any other project that we're working on, the Capitol wall coming down or not, whatever we're doing. But I think ultimately it's going to be easier for the group as long as everyone could log into Office 365 on a computer, because I'm not sure you can access SharePoint through your iPads or whatever else you guys are using to manage your emails.
Yeah, we'll have to test that out as well. I know for me, there's a few of the Microsoft Suite products that I can get on my phone, like OneNote. But I can also only have one version of it on my phone, which is my work version. So there's definitely some challenges there. All right, do we have any other discussion points? No? Okay, with that, I think we're ready to take a vote on whether or not we adjourn this meeting. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? And so that I get used to this, anyone abstaining from their vote? Not right now. Okay, well, I want to appreciate everyone's time tonight, and thank you so much. Have a great night. Stay safe and warm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Good night.
Great
Thank
meeting.
you.